But the construction companies who bid on these projects will determine ultimately what that cost is going to be. So they have an incentive to cut the workers out of the picture. You're not answering the question.
Maybe I don't understand the question, then rephrase. Okay, you're asking me if they're gonna be able to take the profits that are supposed profits.
I'm saying the price in the market for the construction work is determined by the competition among the builders.
Okay.
It's not determined by the wage. That's what determines the profit that the builder makes.
The builders going in will know that they have to pay the prevailing wage, so they are gonna factor that into their bid, each one of them equally. If they know they don't have to pay the prevailing wage, they're gonna be more competitive in their bid. I'll give you an example. I bid roofs down at Bowling Air Force Base. I'm just gonna give you a real world example.
I withdraw the question. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Why are we talking about prevailing wages? I'm lost in the mix here.
The question was about the concern of schools. Do we need more schools? We need 2 elementary schools. We need to have Urbana torn down and rebuilt. And we need to have Sugarloaf Elementary.
I had 2 follow-up questions to the issue of schools. Last time you referenced the countywide capacity of the schools, which I think is around 87%. What is the District 2 capacity? And where would you propose redistricting a kid from, say, Greenville Elementary? Where are you going to send them? Thurmont? So, I mean, the countywide capacity, yes, is under 100%. It's at 87%.
It would not be a panacea, and it would be a total misrepresentation if I say that it would work and absolutely do away with overcrowding. Would it alleviate? Is it realistic to do it? No. Has it been done in the past? Yes. Does it need to be done now? Would it help a little bit? Yes. Where could Lincoln Elementary is 10 minutes from here? It's under capacity. I'm just pointing to the obvious. You know, do we need more right here? Because there's more homes being slated right here, as Steve pointed out. Absolutely.
Montgomery County and PG County redistrict, or Frederick County were better. So we need to aim higher. Redistricting to me is a cop-out, and it just doesn't, it's not a solution that anybody in here wants. I can guarantee you nobody in your district wants redistricting. And if we focus on building up the existing infrastructure, the schools and the road before we build all these houses, we need to catch up first and then move forward. That's all.
Hey, Tony, can I bring the prevailing wage question back around to the development issue, just for real brief? Because you've got a lot of DRAs and APFOs that were negotiated over the last 3-4 years that specify school impact fees and school construction mitigation fees that are based on school costs, school construction costs that you pointed out are now 30 to 50% short of reality. So recognizing the problem you pointed out, how do we go back to all those negotiated agreements and say that fee structure won't work anymore to get us the school capacity we're going to need?
Tony, why not put tolls on these roads around here that everybody pays? Everybody pays their share. All the developments built before now around Monrovia, free rides. You know, the party's over. There's no free lunches. Put speed cameras out, raise money, but tie it strictly to Route 75 and Route 80 to improve those projects. And everybody will pay and be tickled to death. You got all these outsiders coming out of Pennsylvania, traveling these roads, cutting across country, shortcuts, that everybody pays.
I'm only smiling because I just don't know how that would be achieved. But
People would move.
I'm not saying this, you know, every idea I think needs to be considered. I don't, some might not be more realistic than others. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I need to run, but I just want to know, will you make that phone call to the developers to tell them to, hey,
Will I
yeah.
call them and tell them?
Yes.
Who is the other gentleman? Ted. I will absolutely call them. And she will remind me and give me the numbers. I actually don't have their numbers on speed dial. Yes, sir.
Tony, what is the existing impact fee for new homes?
Depending on the size and square footage, you can name from 16 to 20,000.
What about the possibility of raising that impact fee just for the new development? The reason I mention that is because I don't know how many folks know about Urbana, but when Urbana was first built, there was a special tax that was placed on all of the brand-new homes so that they could build the infrastructure.
CDA.
Yeah,
And they're still paying.
and so
Yes.
why can't we look at that idea, because Urbana has been developed relatively reasonably, and it looks pretty good, and they did a pretty good job with it, with the roads. Why can't we look at that for new developments? Why can't we look at the possibility of raising the impact fee only for the new homes, so that it does not impact the existing residents?
Steve may actually know some of these numbers a little better than me, but I do believe that the proposed Monrovia Town Center has increased the impact fees. I believe that they are somewhere to $40,000, and if it's not strictly for schools, they are singled out. I do believe I'm
Well, they
correct.
zeroed out the excise fee.
But I think they also have to pay an additional impact fee down there, and I don't know.
They're paying the same rate as the other developers in terms of the school impact fee, the construction.
I mean, I'm gonna look into it and find that number and find out, because I was understood that they were paying a little bit more for that particular development. But I will verify that.
Steve, weren't the rules changed from Urbana to what they are today?
Well, yeah, in part, they did negotiate the DRA with Natelli to cover the entire Urbana community at this point, not Urban Green, which is the 10. But I don't know if that included a new APFO, LOU, or anything to the equivalent of it. So, but yeah, most of that was developed in an earlier time.
I'm patient.
You're patient.
I am.
Tony, thank you for meeting with my fellow neighbors here on, it looks like both sides of the aisle. So this morning, Danny and I got up and we had a lot of errands and doctor appointments to run today. And halfway through the day, I was looking at him and I was like, that's a nice summer shirt you have on. And then I started thinking about the color. And then I started thinking about, I wouldn't want to see that 365 days a year. You know where I'm going with this, right? And that reminded me of Ron Burns and the impact study for the traffic on 75 and 80. Now, I know it's a 5,000 square foot building now, but I double checked before I came over here and I looked on websites, and there is proposed a 60,000 square foot building, which is 12 times larger, on a 43 acre size lot. And they are very proud to say that that will come to fruition in less than 5 years.
Would you like to tell folks what you're talking about now?
Oh, nobody knows. Okay, well, if you drive down 75 and 80 area, you haven't seen the temple. That's the
Yes.
color of my husband's shirt.
Yeah.
Which was not, by the way, the color that they presented on their website.
It's ugly as
It-
it can be.
It does not blend in with the community.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I guess besides the color part is, I know there's a lot of discussion about traffic around Monrovia Town Center. What's the impact of the traffic if they increase that square footage by 12 times? If there's been any thought given to that.
I will have to find out what the capacity of the building is that they're talking about building. I have no idea.
The other
But
thing
that
is,
one will be, that's one of those things, is I don't know if that's a community development, a community building that they're gonna be building that will be used all the
Well,
time,
the
or is
current,
it?
the current building will be a community building, but again,
The other one will be the worship center.
projected.
And I'll be honest with you, there's no way I'm touching a 10-foot pole the color of a religious institution. I mean, I'm sorry, folks, but that's
does that
one
go
bad
back to
word.
the planning commission that like oversees
I-
that color's okay?
I would put it to you this way, historic preservation commissions in historic areas in the state have been shot down over and over again when it comes to color. The courts have ruled, you can't do anything about the color someone paints.
Well, with the color aside, could we put some thought to the traffic with the Monrovia Town Center, Lansdale, and the 60,000 square foot?
Well, I think they should absolutely be part of the public-private partnership, and if they're gonna be building something so large, they should have to do more than just put turn lanes.
I tried to call Ron Burns,
Hold on one second.
I tried to call Ron Burns, and he's no longer, I don't know, he's MIA. I get a machine saying that he's no longer, undetermined amount of time that he's gonna be away. Do you know anything about that?
Whatever your question is, for get it to me.
Okay.
I'll make sure it gets answered.
I'm just saying to me, at this point, doors open, the horse is out, you can't change the color of the building.
You know, I'm not talking about the color, what I'm talking about is I had heard at one point, when we first learned about Monrovia Town Center, because of the tail end of what we learned about Lansdale, was that this temple was going to bring thousands of people umpteen times a year from Virginia and DC and Maryland. I don't know if that's true. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's not, yeah, but then built this big building. And that obviously is gonna bring a lot more traffic. And that was the issue for me, you know, when I first learned about it. I don't care who worships where, you know, and I'm not fond of the color, but, you know. But if you're gonna bring that much more traffic into the area, it's gonna be like, you know, Church of Redeemer down in Germantown and Gaithersburg, you know, but maybe worse. On these
This
little
is
roads.
something I was unfamiliar with, that they were doing large, and I will look into that and ask those questions, because if they, I do not know what stage it is with the planning commission, or if it was a preliminary approval.
They've got phase two.
They're
The whole
phase
thing
two.
just kind of snuck way under the radar. Not, and what's worse is it got grandfathered over from completely different churches, approval, phase one approval.
Well, you know, the one thing that I would say this, and I've been told, would like to verify this too, because this is one I took for granted, it was true, that the 5 homes that are built there for the priests, they're all tax-free.
Why is that?
And I guess because they're priests, I don't know. But I just, you know, to me, there should be some level of reasonable there. The libertarians out there love this discussion right now.
Well, I mean, I guess we just like some consideration of the total impact of Lansdale, the 60,000 square foot build out that most people aren't aware of, and Monrovia Town Center. That's a big bundle in that one little grid square.
Absolutely. I think that they should be helping to pay some of that, not just their turn lanes that go into there. I don't even know if they paid for that. I don't know if Lansdale can do both sides of it. I suspect usually folks have a chip in something. You know, I can't be sure, for sure everything is based upon what percentage you're doing. I mean, I know down at the Bennett Preserve there, where Wormald is building, I believe that's 49 homes, they have to give $250,000 to the improvement of the 75, 355.
Exit and entry lanes are all well and good, but at some point you gotta come back on the 2 lanes you have left.
No, I agree. And I'm at least ask the question and see where we can go up with it, and push hard to make sure that if it has an impact, they should have to pay for that also. Yes, Mrs. Dale. New subject?
Sorry,
New subject?
am I a subject?
New subject?
New subject, actually, let me revisit a couple of subjects. I come back with gifts, at least an idea for you to consider in terms of bridge issue. Every time I turn left, like if I'm going towards Costco's distribution center, but I turn left to go towards the bridge, there are these things that hang down over the road, and I always think of them as cowbells. Like, we really don't have a lot of reinforcement there. And the other day, I was looking at the new design of a lot of the new stoplights, and you have this steel kind of thing, and there's also a structure at Burger King that has a height, you can't go underneath of it to go order. And if we were to put something that's steel in reinforced concrete, that's at the height of where you can't go under it because of the bridge, truckers then have to turn around in an area they can turn around in. That's okay, let them take that.
The other place I will go is, I will go knock on Costco's door. I've actually been thinking about it for a while, but you're asking me, I'll at least have the conversation. I know that lots of people have had the conversation with them.
Yeah.
But you know, I can at least let them know that they're not the nicest neighbor in the neighborhood right
Well, putting a piece of steel into somebody.
now. I suspect this,
Might
the
actually.
state, unfortunately, I mean, that is the biggest problem with 75, is pointed out by Matt, that, you know, it is a state road, and it's an uphill battle to get money for it.
Right,
Each
but
of
if
those
we can
improvements-
put cowbells.
And quite frankly, I think the $250,000 that Costco said that they would, I personally think they should be flipping the whole bill.
I
You know, I mean, for a turnaround, I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm more for small business people. You know, if you want to get into a different subject, you know, we've got a proposed tax incentive for companies coming here making $5 million a year, bringing 25 employees. That's great, so let's bring in some more big businesses, let's say they have with the little guys. I start to have a problem with that. We're starting to do what we're in Frederick now, what the federal government's doing, the state government does all the time. You know, why do we do that? Because every time we get hit with a large corporation that leaves us, after we've given them all these tax incentives and they don't get any more, they pick up and leave us high and dry. And I don't think that's an answer either. I don't have any love for Costco. They can move their whole warehouse, and I don't think it would hurt Frederick County.
I agree.
Not to get distracted down into the conversation of small versus medium versus large. Attracting mid-size and large-size corporations is actually part of the solution. It's about being able to keep people in the county in good-paying jobs instead of everybody being, 40% of the people leaving the county every day on those roads.
And I'm all for that. But my
So
point
I
is-
don't want to get too far. into
Right,
it.
right, but I'm just saying that if we're gonna have tax incentives, we certainly limit that. The possibilities. When you look at what percentage of small business actually makes the world go around the United States of America.
But this is
It's
not-
90,
this is not
it's
about
90%,
limiting
and so
small
we want
business and mid-sized
it
business.
does come down to that.
business.
It does come down to that.
Can we move on to the issues that?
Absolutely, I'm here to listen.
And you talked about redistricting. To my way of thinking, redistricting is not a long-term solution in an area, especially like District 2, that's going to have like 10,000 housing units built. That's there are very few schools that can actually take a lot of any of those kids, never mind all the kids that are sitting out in portables now. To me, that's not the way you fix it. That's just, it's not even a Band-Aid. The problem we have in this county, and I kind of talked about it at the last meeting, is we don't have enough revenue coming in. And one of the areas we don't have it in is the capital budget. And that's because impact fees are actually down from 2004 by several $1,000s. We eliminated the excise fee. That used to pay for roads. We need to update the Tischler study and the impact fees and do an accurate assessment of what housing is generating how many children and what is the real cost of the capital budget in terms of school construction given prevailing wage. So that whole study, I think, really needs to be updated and refined, and that's under the council's purview. You know, raising revenues is under your purview, and so I think if you're gonna solve the problem long-term and make the developers happy as well and provide the necessary infrastructure, we've got to re-implement the excise fee. We've got to have local monies going into schools and roads. And that all still begs the question of the money that it costs to operate the schools, for which we don't have impact fees. All we have are taxes. So I keep coming back to the same question. How do you propose we pay for all this?
Well, I guess you and I are fundamentally different on one thing here. I do not believe we have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. I said it last time, and I said it in a way that didn't make some people happy, so I won't use the word hidden. Okay, the fact is, without increasing and keeping the constant tax rate, instead of just keeping the constant yield, we kept the constant tax rate, which allowed $2.9 million more dollars of your revenue, your taxes, your money, to come into our coffers. When, without doing that, just with new building, commercial and residential, fees increased by $7 million, taxes increased by $7 million. We already had $7 million to spend. But the powers that be, and I was not one of them, decided that we need $2.9 million. If you're going to sit here and tell me we need more revenue, I'm going to disagree strongly with you. I think we all pay enough. How about we start cutting things and be more streamlined with our funds? We instituted 44 new positions in this last budget for FY 2016. I don't think that was responsible. We didn't need that. There's many things in that budget that did not need to be there. There's many different ways to allocate. So we will disagree on that because there are plenty of places other to cut to give things back to the community in the important areas. Schools, roads, fire and safety. Everything after that's kind of superfluous, don't you think? That's what the government's supposed to do for you. It's not supposed to be a panacea to take care of you from cradle to grave.
It's mostly obviously
information gathering, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's mostly concerned with information gathering with all the other services that you provide. I mean, that's what the people that were hired, that's what they do.
Of those 44 positions, which ones are you proposing to cut? The firefighters or
At this point, I'm willing to say,
police?
we could have had level funding for one more year. You could have increased the school budget by another $5 million and given them $10 million, and you didn't have to hire any of those 44 people.
So
Would it
which
be
ones
easy?
would
No.
you not?
I mean, if you want to peg me back into the corner, go right ahead.
No,
I
it's
have
a
no
fair
problem telling you the
question.
way that I see it. I am not a spend person. I would not do that. Period.
You have to have enough revenue.
We have enough
for the
revenue.
services.
We
I mean,
disagree.
If we did, we wouldn't have.
We do not have a
overcrowded
revenue
schools.
problem. We
If
have a
we
spending
did,
problem.
we would be able
Why
to
did
fund
we
schools
hire a new
adequately.
director of
You're not
communications?
gonna listen.
Why did we hire a new director of communications in the county with a six-figure income? Can you explain that to me? That's a rhetorical
The county
question.
executive probably could, but my point still is, it's more than $5 million that we're missing in terms of building adequate infrastructure.
And it's a
roads,
long-term
schools,
solution. It's a
providing
consistent problem. It's a consistency that you have to have someone who's willing to say, I'm gonna spend the money in the right areas, not just to buy votes.
This is money that comes from new growth. It's not money that comes from existing taxpayers that goes towards the
Well, but
infrastructure.
you also like to
So
selectively
it's
forget
not
the
about
economy and the
raising
downturn it
taxes.
had and the recessions that we went through. I mean, the gentleman asked me about being a
What did we
builder,
say?
and what did I say about being a builder? How hard did it hit me as a builder? Do you think that these the developments around here help a small builder? That's the funny part.
Actually, the funny part is small builders seem to really support and promote large builders at their own detriment.
Oddly enough, I support a county government keeping its word when it makes agreements. That's what I support.
So
Whether or not it's detrimental to me personally is really irrelevant, because I'm gonna do what's right.
we're going round and round on that.
Not really.
You don't like all these codes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, getting back to the point you made earlier about how we should go about raising the $500 million as opposed to the 5 or 25 you're talking about now. You said we should go and lobby, right? Okay, well, first of all, we gotta organize a lobbying effort, but that's gonna take years. And in the meantime, we need $500 million. We don't have it, we're not getting it. This whole development should be canceled.
Not just this one, the
Well,
others.
partnership. Nothing ever happens all at once. And folks say, are you putting the cart before the horse? Well, I would just ask you, when in the history of the United States did someone have to come in and pay for all the improvements before they got to do anything? And I'm not talking about protecting the interests of
Before they
any
had
developer.
credit.
Because you know what? You can approve all this, and developers can still go under. Look at the Brochus brothers. They lost everything they had up there like Lincoln. And they had everything given to them, and the economy tore them apart.
Hey, Tony, so here's an example. I had a great talk with Ron Burns a couple summers ago. And he was most proud from the standpoint of the county's transportation plan in terms of what they did with the new design road. That's an investment the county made towards building that road before all the growth came in. That was his shining example of the county doing it right. We're not doing it right now.
I think you've also, I apologize, I'm not in front of the screen, that Urbana High School was built before the Urbana was built out. That high school was in the middle of nowhere.
That's a good point.
It can be done.
It can and has been done in this county, in Urbana.
Absolutely.
That was planned, none of this other is being planned.
Requires courage to do the right thing.
You know, the whole purpose behind the APFO is that you have infrastructure being done concurrent with development. Okay? When we weakened the APFO and when we diminished the impact fees, and we eliminated the excise fees, that's where we got ourselves into another deficit. And we worked for years in the 90s to try to start catching the infrastructure up with the growth. And then it was decimated by this last board. But it's going to move into the future being decimated.
I think it's unfair to sit here and point to one board, because I can sit here and point fingers. The reality is, the economy was out for everybody. The state took money away from the
The
counties.
economy didn't have anything to do with the APFO.
Well,
And it didn't have anything to do
you know,
with the.
I don't think the APFO was affected as greatly as you suggest.
Well,
Because it's
no.
still there. And it's just not to the highest standard that you want. But it's
If you have to pay a $14 million mitigation fee under the revised APFO, it is pretty severely impacted. I mean, as a person that ran for the school board, I cannot believe that you would accept to pay a mitigation fee, which is basically a get out of jail free card for these developers to build over capacity. And I mean, I can't understand, you're penny wise and pound foolish. You talk about tax savings and you talk about all this kind of stuff, but you're putting potentially taxpayers on hook for
Yes.
multi-million dollars in unfunded liabilities that you can't identify how it's gonna be paid. And you have no idea how it's gonna be paid. And these are real concrete numbers that we're dealing with here.
You know, you're talking about all that's going to be built. I really object to what you're talking about building. I live right there on 75, and I'm going to have the pleasure of waking up every morning. Instead of looking out and seeing these beautiful fields, I'm going to have all of these houses that are not like the houses that are there. Instead of having houses that are on acres or 3 acres or 5 acres like is around me, you're gonna have house after house after house, and townhouses piled one on another, and all the traffic flying up and down to where I'm not even gonna be able to hardly get out of my driveway. The noise, the traffic, the pollution, the unsafety. We moved up here thinking it would be a wonderful place for our retirement. We put all of our effort, our money, all of our energy into coming here, thinking Frederick County was going to be a wonderful place to retire. We're finding out now that we're really having second thoughts about it. And that really makes us sad, because when we investigated and looked into where we were buying, all this wasn't supposed to be happening over there. And we felt like, we really feel like we've been betrayed, because Monrovia Town Center wasn't on the chart for over there. All of it was changed by a few people when they were elected and became commissioners. And that's really sad. It's really sad. So we're looking now to the new people who are up there, hoping for some salvation, hoping to see some change, and hoping that you will listen to all the people who are saying to you, hey, that's not what we want, for many, many, many reasons.
If I might also interject something, I'm an environmental management major, and one thing that really concerns me is the level of the quality of the water here. Anytime you have more than 10% paving in a given area, you start impacting the water quality. Already Urbana has got wide swaths where the pavement covering, which affects the water quality, is at 25%. 25% is considered non-life sustaining. So all of that runoff is going down into the water supply, is going down into the Chesapeake, and that's why, despite the fact people are screaming about the rain tax, that's why we're being hit with the rain tax, is because the amount of pavement and non-porous surfacing that's going on. And like I said, Urbana's already got wide areas where it's 25%. You can go right onto the water site and check your sub-watershed for Frederick County, for Urbana, and you can see where it's 25% and possibly even greater in some areas. It's been years since I went and looked. But once you get past 10%, you are affecting water quality, you are affecting the ability of the life to be sustained that water takes care of. So that's something that you all need to think of. And I don't think that building 11,000 homes is necessarily a good thing.
So there's two major premises about Monrovia Town Center that are now vacated. The one was we need to have 3.5 dwelling units per acre in order to meet priority funding standards. Well, we know it's not in a priority funding area. Therefore, we don't need the density of 3.5 premise is no longer valid, it's null and void.
It never has been valid.
Right, and the second is the